Hey, what's up, everybody? Chandler Bolt here, and welcome to another Monday Night Hangout. Welcome back, hopefully. You've been with us before. If you would just let me know, A, that you can hear me, and B, that you can see me. If you'll just comment in the thread. We want to make sure to keep all comments and keep all questions in the thread. If this is your first Hangout, so it's in the thread in this event that says post your questions here. We got Sean Sumner back with us. I'm back from a little vacation, back from a little speaking gig. He's been jet setting all around. So excited to have him back. And it's light outside. We don't have like this weird dark shadow, and it's not nighttime, so that's kind of nice. It's still bright out here in San Francisco. But I actually just got back from Traffic and Conversion Summit this weekend. So I'm a little hoarse and a little tired, but it was a great weekend, and really just a reminder and kind of the takeaway. Just a quick little bit I wanted to share with you guys before we dive into the agenda and before we dive into questions. Really just reminded the power of investing in training and of surrounding yourself with like-minded people. It wasn't a cheap ticket for Traffic Conversion Summit, and I actually didn't get to go to a ton of the sessions. But the ones I did go to were really, really good. I learned a ton of great stuff. It's stuff that we're already implementing in the business, as well as just, really surrounding myself with like-minded people and getting in there and meeting a bunch of new people, as well as meeting people like Dave Chesson for the first time in person, just a bunch of other people for the first time in person, people that, have specials for you guys, people that have great products, just really, really cool. So I left that weekend, although a little bit tired, definitely inspired and definitely with some really good stuff and some fresh ideas and just kind of, I don't know about for you guys, but for me, it's a great refresher and a reminder of kind of why I do what I do, but also just it's inspiring to see other people having great success and just learning from them and asking them questions and things like that. So I really enjoyed it. And just a reminder and a takeaway for you guys is just, I see some people's comments in here, but just a reminder for you guys, you're in the right place. I appreciate you guys coming on these Hangouts. Hopefully you get a lot out of them because it really is just a great feeling, I'm sure, for you guys, especially if you just joined us recently. It's kind of that nice shot in the arm, each week, whether you're struggling with your writing, whether you're getting intimidated over the book marketing portion, or whether you're working to sell more books, write more books, or even turn your book into a business. I know that this is a great place to ask those questions and also to get inspired. So thanks to you guys for joining us. Let's see, looks like we got Kathy here, Steve, Christina, what's up? Mickey, Candy, we've got Habiba, we've got Mary, Mandy, hey, happy writing campers, love it. Rebecca, Eduardo, thanks, is a nice haircut. Oh, I'm getting your inside jokes now, Matthew, of when you were talking about cash and checks last week. Nina's with us, James. All right, cool. We got a packed house, guys. Excited for this. Let's go ahead and dive into the agenda.
Cool. I'm just going to go a couple things. First of all, it's good to be back. I'm joining you guys again. I was out last week, but it's always good to be back. I'm not going to go over stuff of vacation, but I am going to go over some of the book things that I came back to that was really inspiring for me, and I hope this happens with you guys as well. It's really amazing to be part of this kind of community, this online community now, this author community, because I was able to come back from my vacation, not having done anything with my book or any marketing, and come back home and look up on Amazon just to see how it's doing, and it was ranked #1 in its category again, just because Amazon was pushing the keywords right. And it's just a great feeling to know, hey, this is making money while I'm at the beach, right? This is making money for me while I'm on vacation, and it's just such a great thing to come back to. So that's one thing I took out of this. And the next thing I took out was I came back right into a speaking gig, as you saw, as Chandler kind of talked about. And this has to do with physical therapy. It was something outside of the book realm, but I was able to give a really good talk and really good speech, and people coming up to me afterwards saying, hey, you're really good on stage. How has this come about? What's going on here? And I was able to say, you know what? I've got a lot of practice because I've been talking about my book recently. And then it's, oh, really? What books did you write? And then you go right into the books, right? And so it's one of those things where anywhere you're at, when people come up to you, you can kind of lead to it, and all of a sudden they're interested not only in the book, but they're interested in the program. That's a possible referral and affiliate fee, right? That's another way in. So just knowing that these types of things are out there, and it's something that can be done, while you're doing other things. It doesn't have to be just dedicated to book life and just dedicated to other life, right? These are things that all intermix and ways of constantly keeping that passive income coming in. So those are some of my takeaways from this. It was really exciting to have some of that coming back to it. So it's good to see everybody here. I know we've got a ton of questions tonight. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you are going to put your question in, please put it now, because we do have a hard stop at the hour, and we want to make sure to get everybody's question. And if it comes in late, we might not be able to dedicate enough time to it. So we've got a lot of questions, a lot of really great questions in here. So go ahead and put your questions in now. I see there's a couple kind of out of the thread here in the bottom, so I'm going to try and make sure we get to these. But in the future, guys, really keep it in the thread where it says post your questions here. That way we can make sure to get to your questions, and also other people can follow along, because everybody's going to follow along with those questions. And if there's something that we say in there that we give a link or something like that, it's easier for everybody else to follow along if it's in the right order. So I do want to pull out one that was from the bottom. This is from Lena, because she just said something about the Hangout. She said, these Hangouts are so energizing. They keep me on track. Last week, I felt stuck when I completed the outline. Chandler reminded us to mind map each chapter. I did, and it turned into 3 chapters and broke the thought dam. The perfect inspiration I need for the week is always embedded in the Hangout. So thank you all. So that's awesome. That's why we're here. I mean, that's really, it's one of those things we want to be able to answer questions, get you through what's on your mind now. And I know everybody's starting out. We got a lot of people writing a bunch of words this week. We're going to give kudos to all you in a minute. But just know that when you're in that spot and you're having trouble there, that's the best time to ask questions about that. Not necessarily about marketing and those things that are way out there and you're not ready for yet. Just know that we're going to be here that week too, and you can ask those questions when you're ready. So those things that are keeping you stuck and are preventing your progress, that's what to ask right now, so we can help get you through that. Because there's a lot of tips and tricks working with a bunch of people that we know that we can hopefully get to you and help push you through that thing that's keeping you there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the slides here. And if you guys are new, just know that you can follow along with these slides that I'm pulling up. There's a link at the top of the event. You can click right onto the slides, follow along with me. If you're on a mobile device or something where you can't have both screens, this is always available there. I'm going to share my screen so you can follow along. And there's always a recording of this. So it's just go to the same link. Or if you go into your membership portal in the mastermind community, you're going to be able to find a link to this Hangout and all our other Hangouts there as well. So let me go ahead and pull up that slide share. And as I'm doing that, see, Chandler, let me know if you can see that well.
Yeah, I got you. Great. Sean's bringing the heat today. Love those tips, man. And also, big shout out to Lena. Great job taking action on what you've learned on the Hangouts. That's the most important thing to me, is that not only you guys show up, but then you go use what you learn immediately. And so that's just really great job, Lena. Super excited to see that for you.
Cool. All right, guys. So getting into the slides here, we're going to go through kind of some kudos. We'll talk about the book launches, some great tips, our wall of fame, our updates for the upcoming week, a week or two. And then we'll get into your questions. So usually about the 15-minute mark, we'll hit questions. So go ahead, like I said, put those in now, and we'll be getting to them really quickly here. So just talking about writing, I was saying this, and maybe that's so many people that are just killing it going through their word counts, right? They have goals for themselves, and they're going through it. So Harmony said day 1 of draft writing, bam, 2,800 glorious words typed. So day 2, 3,100, just doing great with that. Kathy said she finished rough draft for chapters 3 through 5. Matthew, who's here tonight, smashed 2,750 words. Sonia, so I know that she can't keep up with this live because it's like 3 in the morning for her, but she's almost 10,000 words, and that's amazing.
That's great.
Lena, who just posted that, she nailed her first week goals and outline and wrote 7,200 words. So taking action right there like that. And then if you guys post these, here's a post. I'm going to pull this up by Laura Baker. If you guys can see that, that's just something you can say, post when you have major things like this, right? So we can celebrate with you. And the best part about this, Laura, I think, is you gave some credit to your accountability partner, right? And so I love seeing this kind of stuff, and just post this for us so we can all celebrate with you, and it inspires more people to keep moving and pushing through as well.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, launch successes. So Shola said, I finally got my orange banner, and she actually posted a tip in here. She was wondering why it hadn't shown up in a couple of days, even though she was in the right categories and everything. She called KDP, and like an hour later or something, they put it up and she got her orange banner. So sometimes you just need to remind them a little bit, right? Email them, call them, let them know, hey, why is my orange banner not there? It looks like Katie got her as well, finally got the orange banner. Ken to launch #1 and 2 categories. Nice to see, especially for a book I'd rather not have written. But thanks for downloading it. It's early on a Sunday, people helping them out. So great to see all your success. Again, post that so we can celebrate with you. And then some tips that were shared. So Jim Molinelli, who wrote some great lessons as far as going through his launch. And this is some of the best posts when you guys can kind of do reflection posts, say what worked for you, what didn't, what you would have done differently. It helps everybody, and it helps you too, because you can learn from what you did when you kind of reflect on it and write it down. All right, so that's a great post. Oda Kara talking about her audiobook experience. Candela, how to ask for more categories in KDP. So I know Chandler has been doing this recently. I got to do it too. You can get up to 10 categories. Jim, again, the results of a BookBook promo. And I think he spiked his sales from like 10 to 15 a day to almost 100 the day of the promo. So it really does work. It was one of the best promos for him by far. Doc Collins, who just joined this week's assignment, mind map, including I wanted to keep accountable to the group by sharing mine. So check it out, a little picture there. Got his mind map in there. Very organized, looking good, Doc. I'm glad to have you in the group.
I'm like, Doc, what do you do? Are you a designer or something? Because that looks great.
Well, I think it's a little bit of the military. I think he's a military man.
Ah, cool. It's like, just a disclaimer to everyone looking at that as the model. Yours will probably be messier. All right, I want to give some shout outs to some book launches. We got 3 book launches happening this week. We've got #1 is The 3 Reasons, Love, Music, and the San Francisco Giants, a true story of life after death. That's Beverly Adamo. The launch date was just yesterday. We've got Life Sucks, Seek God, 5 soul healing habits to connect you with God when life seems out of control. That's Ken Hagler. That also launched yesterday. And then we've got Track Your Success, the ultimate author's guide to tracking book promotions without being a Google Analytics expert. That's Ray Bram, and that launched on the 9th, so just a few days ago. Then let's see. We've also got a Kindle Scout campaign. So I know some.
And this is with Sherry as well. So this is a little bit different than a book launch, guys. This is something that it just takes a minute or two to go in, and you just have to vote. So the Sherry's got this going for, I forget the amount of time. I know she posted it, and she's keeping us updated on the process. You just click on that, and you don't have to download anything. Doesn't cost anything. You may have to sign up if it's your first time on Kindle Scout, but all you have to do is vote, and you can vote every day. I think there's like 8 days left in her campaign. So that's a good one to help out. And she's going to let us know all about the Kindle Scout campaign afterwards and how it worked for her and some tips if that's something that you're looking towards.
Yeah, that's great. All right, we've got a reigning #1 in both categories this week. I don't know if I've ever seen this.
No, 1, 2, and 3. Look at that.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's too funny. Wow. So sharing value and supporting others. This is great. So top engaged members this past week, we've got Jim Molinelli, Harmony Whalen, and Melanie Butler. We've also got Nina Ingstrand and Wendy Vandepol. So great job encouraging others in the community. Then we've got our top influencers, which are sharing posts and sharing helpful tips. This is Jim Molinelli, Harmony Whalen, Melanie Butler, Melina Nguyen, and Michael Lee Lacey. So shout out to each of you guys for making the community say great. I'll quickly go through our featured blog post and action plan of this week. The blog post, this is republished, and this is, people are getting pretty fired up about this one. So this is the book writing software, which one is best? So we have our opinion, and that's kind of what we published.
Scrivener.
That's not my opinion. That's your opinion. But we kind of share some different, some different options as well as what we think are the top ones. And I'm amazed. It's like the Mac versus PC debate, as well as so many people are just naming these obscure book writing softwares and just claiming that they're like the greatest thing ever in the comments. And then there's like this duel going on in the comments. Someone said, I forget what they said. They're like, wow, you have some serious issues. Like they're like arguing. So it's pretty funny. Even if you just need a good laugh, check out that post. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments on that post. That's our most popular post on the whole blog. It's written by Scott Allen. And then our featured, this is one of our coaches here in Self-Publishing School. Our featured action plan this week is the Create a Hard Copy action plan. So if you're looking at to create a hard copy, then that'll walk you step by step through the process.
All right, so community updates. Just to let you know, we got a community expert hangout, and this is actually going to be next Wednesday. So I'm going to update this on there, but if you click on the link, it'll show you it's next Wednesday at 12 p.m. This is going to be a hangout with our master level coach, R.E. Vance, just talking about coaching and different areas that you might be able to improve and go further with that. So, you know, he's already got a bunch of comments on this by students or students that have worked with him in the past, just talking about the different ways that it helped here. So if you're looking towards coaching or what that can do to help kind of take you through that next barrier, I know that's what helped me get 2 books published in the 90 days when I first started. So you can check that out on next Wednesday at 12 p.m. And then just as always, let you guys know, KDP Rocket, we have our 50% off for SPS members. Going to the link right here and using the coupon code below. Just again, we want to make sure this is something that stays in the group. This is the only way he's offering this kind of discount for this product. It is a lifetime use. It's not just for a monthly fee. So it's less than $50 for lifetime use. This is something you can use for keyword research, whether you're looking up whether the title, the keywords, you're doing promotions with Amazon, or even if you're just doing research beforehand. So check that out there. And then I think we're ready to get into questions here.
Heck yeah, let's do it.
So I'm going to close this out.
Cool. While you're doing this, I'll just go ahead and read the first one. This is from Janine. She says, I believe my book is much better as a hard copy print version. Can I start with that? Should I focus on CreateSpace? Is that part of this training too? Great questions, Janine. So you can certainly start with whichever one you think will be best. I usually recommend the Kindle version because it's easier. There's not as much formatting and there's not as much of a learning curve. But if you want to start with a print and then go Kindle or something, you could certainly do that. It's not my preference, but if that's your preference, then you can do that. Let's see what else. Should I focus on CreateSpace? Yes, use CreateSpace. Is that part of the training? Yes. We've got an action plan. That's, we just talked about that a second ago. And then we've also got some additional hard copy content as part of the master level.
All right, let's see. Next question here is from Johan, or Johanna. I'm writing my first book, first draft done in French, and will be translated into English. Question number 1, I want to launch both at the same time. Is it a good or bad idea? Question number 2, since it'll be the same book, if I have reviews in English, is there a way to copy them for the French book? Otherwise, I guess the ideal thing would be have mostly bilingual people, my future launch team, to set them for reviews in both. What is your take on the strategy I should adopt? Thanks a million.
Yeah, that's a great question. I wouldn't do both of them at the same time because that's a lot of extra work. You know, you've got a French editor, English editor, etc. I would do whichever one you're most comfortable with first, and whichever one that you also feel like has a good audience. So for example, if you're really comfortable in French, but then you feel like, I don't know, that's not my main target market, or I would love to have a bigger target market, like for the States and Canada, that sort of thing. Then if that's the case, then I would do it in English, and I would launch English to all Amazon stores. Now then you could go back and do a French version and launch that specifically to the French store. Or to the Amazon.fr, I think it is, for France. You could certainly do that, but I would do English across all platforms first, and then decide, whether or not you want to do a French specific version. Just because I like to focus in on one thing, and it's going to be much easier to take that one thing to the finish line.
All right, second question here is, someone told me when you publish your book through CreateSpace, you can't order a discounted price for your own books. You pay the same as everyone. I'd like to be able to sell my books at speaking events. I don't want to sell them at a higher price. Or am I not understanding something? And yes, I am not there in the training. Just finished the first draft and coming up with questions. Already jumping ahead. We talked about this earlier, but I will answer this question and let you know. It's because I actually ordered some today. Absolutely, you can order them at a discounted price. You just have to go through CreateSpace website. Don't order them through Amazon. Go directly to CreateSpace, and you can order them today. I just ordered books. My daughter's actually having a book signing this Saturday. So those of you guys in the Sacramento area, out in Folsom, the new Barnes & Noble, we're going to have a book signing with Emma. And so we want to make sure we had enough books. And we had pre-orders for it from her school and all these different things. And so I went on today and ordered copies from CreateSpace. And I think it was like $2.50 or $2.50 for a copy if you order it that way. So definitely you can order author copies and you can sell them at events. And we've done it in the past. It works really well.
Yeah, that's so cool, Sean. I didn't know that you guys were doing another book signing this weekend. That's super
Oh
cool.
yeah, it's set up with her school. It's a a fundraiser for her school, and she's gonna be able to give that money. So, and Barnes and Noble will do this with local authors. This is something to check out if you have local bookstores. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll work with schools or other nonprofit organizations in the area, and they'll set up a day where not only you have your book signing, but if you come in and set it up in advance, if they bring in the flyer or the coupon that you have, proceeds from any of the sales or anything they buy can go back to that, and even online sales. So with ours, for the 5 days around that event, if people go into the store with that coupon, or if they go online version and use that coupon code, a proceed of the sales will go directly back to her school because they have that tax ID number that they can donate to. And it works for the bookseller because it gets exposure to them, right? And it works for you and it works for the nonprofit. So it's really good in all ways. And then you can also use some of those pictures and things for promotion. So if you're looking at doing that, go and contact your local Barnes & Noble. If there's Borders around anymore, I don't even know if there are, but you can go in and talk to them and talk to their community outreach person. And that's what we did. And we just went into the store directly and asked around to employees, found the right person, and been in contact, and it worked really well.
That's great. That's so awesome. I saw Bento said follow-up question here. Yeah, you can do what you're saying here. You can get it printed and sold via CreateSpace, and you can certainly buy those at a discount and sell those at your workshop. That's a great idea. And then I saw Sherry said, do they have a minimum order count when you order in the back end through CreateSpace? No, they don't.
Yeah, you want to think about the shipping fee because there's a shipping fee. So if you're ordering them one at a time, you're going to end up paying more in shipping, but you can think about it that way. So John's question here, what are the best ways to make charts and graphs effective? There will be several charts comparing annual economic growth since 1920, 97 data points, several tax policy related variables, expecting to use both some line charts and some scattered plots.
Yeah, great question, John. So you can use like a table, like in Microsoft Word or something like that, if you'd like to, and then get your formatter to make it look differently, or you can use an image. Sometimes the table versions are a little bit more friendly for formatting, with things shrinking and with the user being able to make the text bigger and make it smaller. But if you want to control the experience and control what it looks like, then you do that via an image.
And that's where a formatter is so worth the money, right? Because then you don't have to YouTube how it's going to do and try and fix and play with it. Like, hey, that $60 to $80 or $100 if it's a really big book, and have that formatting done for you.
For sure, I have not touched that.
All right, Sonia's question. Hi, my question is about the stuff Chandler left in bold in the video about finishing your book faster. I think that's where he left. So when you talk about things to come back to, he said not to take time for your writing during that. The question is, when do you recommend dealing with that bold stuff, the stuff you're supposed to come back to? During the writing process, or is it part of the editing process?
That's such a great question, Sonia. Now, for those of you who don't know what she's talking about, just to quickly bring everyone up to speed, that's when you might have a fact that you want to cite, or you need additional information, and so what I've recommended is I'll say insert quote about here, or insert story here, or further testimony, or something like that, because what I'm trying to keep you from doing is jumping off and out of writing your book to research, because most people end up in research land, and then next thing you know, 45 minutes later, you're watching cat videos on YouTube, and now your time's up that you were going to use writing. So what I recommend for this, Sonia, is you do it after you finish the rough draft, and then you go back and build out those points.
All right, next question is from Matthew, and he's got a question. Photos for Amazon Kindle books. In my book, they're going to be color pictures for each chapter, 30 to 50 stories with pictures. I'm assuming black and white will be fine for Kindle paper, but are there other ebooks with color pictures? Guess I didn't think it through when I started. Now I'm concerned as pictures are vital to my book or to my stories. So I will say a couple things on this. First of all, there are several readers that will go in color, right? So you can absolutely have different readers. So Amazon Fires, if people are reading it on their computer or through their apps on their iPhone, there's a lot of different ways that people can read this and have colored pictures. But one thing you have to be concerned about is the file size. And you want to look at this link that I just put in there. This is KDP's guide to file size. Because if your files are too big, if your book file is too large, you might not be able to do some of the promotions. You might not be able to bring it down to 99 cents for your 99 cent promotions and do that normal kind of launch pattern that we talk about. Some of them, if they're too big, can only do $1.99, and so you might be stuck there. So I would, if you're doing color pictures, just try and shrink those file sizes down. And actually on KDP, they have ways they can talk about how to shrink file size. You can YouTube that as well. But you want to keep it under a certain size so that you can do those promotions. At least that's my opinion, so you can do those 99-cent promotions. So definitely check that out, but know that you can absolutely do colored pictures. And especially if it's a thing like a cookbook and stuff where it really conveys the message, you're seeing the strawberries, you're seeing things like that, then it's probably well worth it. But definitely check out that link there. Let's see. Matthew had a follow-up question. So this is for picture book authors. Did you launch your Kindle and print versions at the same time? What did you do? With other authors, I've tried a couple things. Launching print versions seemed to work best for sales, but curious as to what worked for you. What is your guys' take on this? When it comes to print, pictures, how do we take the next step to print, or how does that happen?
What did you guys do with Emma's book here?
So I will tell you, with her book, we did both print and Kindle at the same time because I felt the print version was going to be the better seller. That's what people are going to want to have. It's a kid's book. For those of you who don't know, it's a kid's chapter book meant for kids about 8 to 10 years old. And we knew that they're going to want the physical book in their hand to give to someone, right? It was most people are going to buy this as a present to their children or their friends' children or their nieces and nephews. And we knew they probably wanted a print book. But we also knew to get the reviews and do the launch team and do those types of things and really move it up, we wanted to have the digital copy to allow SPS community and other communities to be able to do their normal process. So for me, in that case, it was important to do both. So I put out the launch a little bit longer so that I know I'd had plenty of time to get both done, and I launched both at the same time. But it was specifically for those reasons.
I completely agree with that. That's great.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to skip this one right here because it looks like, Matthew, you pulled in a bunch of questions from Scott. And what I want to do is I want to make sure we get to the people that asked here in this post first. And then I'll see if we can get back to some of these on book category research. That'll give me time to kind of look over it a little bit too. So we got a question here from Nina that says, thank you all who voted on title and subtitle. We wanted to get your feedback on the two that were chosen between number one. Once again, number one, get unstuck using Pathfinder's tools for more love, energy, and growth. Number two, get unstuck, achieve greater love, energy, and growth with the Pathfinder tools. So looking, and then one last one here, number three, invitation to change, get unstuck using the Pathfinder tools for more love, energy, and growth.
I'd like get unstuck as the title, or out of these three. My first gut is I don't know what Pathfinder's tools is, so that confuses me, and so I don't know what the book's about. But that being said, if your target market knows what these Pathfinder's tools are, then perfect. Don't worry about removing that. But if your target market might not, then you might want to either include a benefit that's not like that's more of a feature. The Pathfinder tools, that's like a feature. That's how you're going to get, or that's a mechanism that you're going to use. It's not a benefit that you're going to get. So that's something to be cognizant of. Let's see. In terms of subtitles, I like probably number two as well. I would just get a little bit more specific. Oh, sorry, you're muted.
So just circling back to the one here with Scott, this was Scott kind of getting some research for trying to know what questions you guys have about categories. So if you have a good question about categories, post it there because I believe Scott's putting together something that we can all use as a training. So go ahead and post if you have questions about categories. I know we've done some great stuff with Dave Chesson recently on category research. But go ahead and if you have questions, that's a great place to post those questions. And then Scott's going to put those together and bring out some training from that. Okay, so going to the next question here. Susanna, question for today's Hangout. Any opinions on using a pen name? I might consider it mainly because I'm writing in English and have an absolutely non-English name. Also, I think that I'm a bit self-conscious about my real name. Not sure. Basically, what would be the main reasons why it'd be better or advisable to use a pen name?
Cool. Sean, we need to get a clip from one of these hangouts and have this as like an archive because this gets asked so many times. This is a great question, Susanna. So for me, I don't like using a pen name. For me, it's like if I'm not willing to put my name on the book, then I'm not gonna write it. I know a big fad that came through, probably a couple years ago was, ghost write a book, or just get someone to write it for you, or just speak it and then slap a pen name on it and then publish it. I'm just very much against that. And I know that's not what you're doing here, but maybe that turned me off on pen names is a good bit. But then even like, at TNC this weekend, I'm with SJ Scott or Steve Scott. And really, that's not even his real name. And so, like, I've got to call him Scott. And I'm just so confused because he goes by Steve Scott. And then there's also SJ Scott. And I know that he's told me before that if he could go back, he just wouldn't do a pen name. And I think a lot of people have said that same thing. The only time where it works or where it makes sense, I think, is fiction. R.E. Vance, our coach Rami, he goes by the pen name R.E. Vance. Joanna Penn goes J.F. Penn. A lot of fiction authors use pen names, and that works pretty well. In terms of self-conscious about using your real name, use your real name. It's something that makes you original. It's something that makes you special. Don't shy away from that. I would recommend using it and not using a pen name.
All right, guys, I know we got a bunch of questions here, so we're going to keep moving. Make sure you get your questions in now so we can get to your question before the end here. Let's see. Rebecca's next question. I'm in the last week of rough draft. I'm having some anxiety over the editing process that comes next. Can you give me some idea how many hours per day I need to set aside for self-editing? It's going to be somewhere around 40,000 words in its rough draft form. I know that there needs to be time to read it out loud and then fill in some gaps. Like all of us, I have other things going in my life. I always set aside time for this. I really appreciate step-by-step process, how it's, and then the last thing is I really appreciate the step-by-step process, how it's laid out in the course.
Great, cool. Glad you're loving the step-by-step process, Rebecca. Congratulations on being near the finish line. That's a huge accomplishment. It really is. In terms of the time that you're looking at, I would say, do one verbal read through. 2 might be a little much before passing it off to an editor. What I like to do here is, you can go, I would say go an hour a day. That would be my recommendation. If you can do more, certainly do more. But what I would recommend is you do it first thing in the morning. So before you get into your morning routine, before you get into your day, before you get into your work, especially, don't save it till nighttime if possible. And then I like to go straight through the book, but then sometimes when I'm going another pass, like when I get the first edits back from the editor or something, I'll start in the back of the book because I just know that my tendency is to get lazy. Like it's like I'm super strict on the very beginning, and then by the time I get to the end, I'm like, whatever, like, I'm done, and you just get fatigued. So I try to get in the back of the book and give that some more love in the later rounds and focus on that more.
All right, so next question is from Wendy. A question about adding categories. I know when I launched my book, the categories with KDP didn't match up, or with KDP and Amazon. I don't remember which one takes precedent. I know there will be some tweaking. Is it KDP or Amazon whose categories are final?
It's KDP. As far as I know, I think you're talking about books first, and I actually think I think that they can be different. It's been a while since I've looked at this in terms of like on the book side and on the Kindle side. The categories can be different. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, if you're talking KDP, then you're talking digital, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You want to. They're just different. It's not the one's right or wrong. They're just different, and so you have to list it in KDP, and that's what when you launch it or you publish your book. But then it may not match up with Amazon, so you have to then call them and say, I need it placed in those ones that are showing in Amazon. So it's not that one takes precedence of the other, they're just different. And so find the ones you want in KDP, and then if you know you want different ones in Amazon, then as soon as you published, contact KDP and say, I want it to match up in these that I saw in Amazon, and they'll do it that way. All right, let's see. Next question is from Rachel. Hey guys, okay, I want to talk about narrowing into a niche and knowing your audience. But in your experience, when is it too much so? For example, I'm working on setting aside a series of books about experience with adoption, but a lot of what I talk about and share applies to blended families of all kinds. Parenting models and advice can work for anyone. Should I go for a larger audience under the parenting umbrella or start narrow and expand later? Would simply cross-categorizing solve the issue? It seems searching through keyword competition that adoption books don't do great in Amazon, but a number of people search adoption on Google, and that's huge there. Wonder if people in the category just don't market their books well. So thanks for any feedback. This form is really the best.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. My advice is always go narrow, then broaden. And to answer your question, I don't think you can ever go too niche. You just find your specific customers and you talk to them. So I would very adamantly recommend against expanding out to blended families, and I would stay in at adoption, because it's also going to make your book way more clear. The whole time that you're writing it, you're writing to a specific audience, and then you can always broaden it out later.
All right, Matthew's got another question here, or two questions here. If I or we miss the sweet spot of time of day for writing, what are some strategies to stop me from beating myself up? And I know he's kind of a miracle morning person, so I think he probably does this a lot in the morning. So that's the first question. And then the second question is, where are we going to find the time to write, keep our daily gigs, and read these killer books being released? Cutting edge, heck, we're on the bleeding edge of authorship, in my opinion.
If there's one thing to go, it's reading other people's books, because you can't read other people's books at the expense of getting your book done. So just make the time to write, and that's the one. It's a non-negotiable. Now, if you miss the time early in the day, that's fine. Don't beat yourself up. Just reblock that time in your calendar and actually put it in your calendar. That's the best tip I have for making sure that you actually hit the writing later on in the day.
All right, next question is from Batul. Opt-in offer. Shall I give away my workbook as an opt-in, PDFs to print, or something else like a tip sheet?
You can certainly use your workbook. That could work well. What I like to do here is choose the thing that's the least amount of additional content creation for you, because the last thing I want you to do is spend like 40 hours creating an opt-in. So creating something that people would opt in for. That's why I'm a huge fan of an audiobook or video. Those are pretty easy to create, but whatever works easiest for you.
Okay, or you could do the kind of an advanced marketing thing and have some specialized offers for different parts of your book. This tip sheet might work perfect in chapter 4. Yep. This workbook might work great to start the book and end of each chapter. So if you've already got them created, you can always have more than one opt-in, but that's only if you've already got them created or you have that time already blocked. If it's going to hold you up, then don't do that. Let's see. She also says, description of a book for Amazon. Does it need a bunch of keywords?
I always say here, if you can include your keywords, definitely do it, but not at the expense of making it readable and making it interesting. Don't overdo it, because people can see right through that, and it doesn't really work.
Yeah, and I think, Katie, a lot of those search engines, Amazon is going to use title and subtitle. And one of the things we learned with Dave Chesney the other day is Amazon considers title and subtitle the same thing. So if your keywords are in your subtitle, they're considering it in your title. And that weighs so much more heavily than the description. But if you can fit it into the description, it's just another place to kind of add on to it. Let's see. Wendy says, what is the best way to relaunch your book when you put your print book on Amazon? Can we request for new members? Or is that forbidden? So kind of two questions here. So I will start with the requesting new member. I think you're talking about a launch team. And our rule has always been so one launch team per book. But what you can do is you can go and bump that back up, right? You can put some additions to that launch team request. So you can change that post. You can also comments below. And so it's going to notify everybody in that thread. And it's also going to put it to the top of the list inside SPS. So we've always had the rule of one launch team request per book. And the best way to relaunch your book, the best way is honestly to go through the entire process again and talk about it with your friends and family, get links and have them come back to the launch team and go through the entire process again. Let's see, Batul says, how do you get more likes and friends on your Facebook business page? Well, people want to be friends on my personal page.
Don't do it, it's a waste of time.
All right, Matthew says, that's just straightforward.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the Facebook fan pages are a waste of time.
Let's see. Matthew says, question, at what point do you go from ebook to print? What are the costs if you self-publish hard copy book? Is it realistic, especially if it has a lot of color pictures?
Let's pump the brakes on this. I know you're still in the writing portion, Matthew, so I'm actually just going to skip this question. Also, because we are a little bit tight on time, so I want to make sure we get some other questions.
What are the differences between CreateSpace and Scrivener? I have Scrivener, but have wondered. So they're very different because CreateSpace and so Scrivener's like Microsoft Word. It's a tool that you use to write, and CreateSpace is like a printing press. It's what is being used to print your books. So they're very different. So Scrivener might be compared to Word or Google Docs, and CreateSpace is more like a printing press that can be compared to Ingram Spark or one of those two. So very different. If you're not really that familiar with Scrivener, it's not something I always recommend to people in their first book because it can be a little bit of a learning curve and it might hold you back from writing. But it's one of those things that I use and I started using after my first book because it was very helpful for me to kind of focus on things. All right, we had a next question. This was from Melanie Butler that I pulled in from I think the main group. I'm confused about the 0 to 99 cent promo. With children's book, I don't think they let me lower the price to 99 cents in the same way the other books. So I'm actually going to include this same link that I did for Matthew above. And I think this might be what you're talking about, whether or not they'll let you go ahead and lower that price. I believe that as long as it's below that limit of size, that should be able to go down to 99 cents. If it's above the limit in file size, then you can only go to 199. So I believe that's what you're talking about. If it's something else, Melanie, then just let me know and we'll see about if we can kind of clarify that for you. Eduardo, first of all, I want to give Eduardo a shout out. He has been taking notes for us as we've been going on. So thank you so much, Eduardo. It's always super helpful for people trying to follow along there, especially those that are trying to get things going and come back to some of this. So great stuff. So what's the best format for a book describing my experiences and results with weight loss and fitness at late 40s, early 50s? Since I'm not a nutritionist nor a doctor, should I make it a journal, a memoir, or starting with a big disclaimer regarding I am not a doctor issue?
I love this question. I'd start with just a disclaimer and write it as a self-help book and write it, not as a, don't feel like you have to devalue your experience by saying, oh, I'll just write it as a memoir because who am I to write this? Just write it as you would write as a traditional self-help book.
I mean, look at Otakar Kletke, one of ours. I mean, she's write a book about kind of knowing your body, and it's doing great. It's because people identify with her, and I think you'll identify with you as well as being a person. And even medical professionals put a big disclaimer in the front saying this is not like medical advice. So I would still put that either way, and it has nothing to do with being a doctor or not being a doctor. Let's see. Jane says, how do you use a mind map with fiction to generate plot ideas, to generate character ideas, to figure out settings, all of the above? I'm actually going to grab a link for this because we actually did a whole expert hangout with our master level coach in fiction site, Ari Vance, where he talked about exactly how to mind map this and how to take ideas and put them in different points and how to get your book ideas out. So it's in our expert hangouts. So I'm going to come back and drop that link for you. And I think if you watch that, you're going to be just amazing and really start going forward on this.
Love it.
All right, we got a lot of people letting us know that they are here and can see us, especially Eduardo telling Chandler got a nice haircut, so good stuff. Let's see. Wash, rinse, repeat. I'm assuming that has to do with your haircut and not any kind of book stuff. I'm going to go with that with Matthew's comment. Alan said, can you explain the advantages and disadvantages of using Scrivener to outline? So just from someone that uses Scrivener, the advantages are that you can see different points of, you can see it in different views. You can see it as a corkboard with different, just different ways of viewing the outline. And so it's like having a mind map in front of you. So it just presents the information in a different way. So I like it because of that. It also allows you to have some things where you can use to save your information that you're using for research in different areas. So those are the kind of the best, but definitely check out the blog here that Chandler just linked up. This talks about the different writing softwares, but there's a lot to Scrivener. So if you're kind of on the fence of whether you should use it or not, again, I would focus on using something you're familiar with for your first book and then coming back to it once you have a little bit of time to say, okay, I know what I did with this software. Let me see what this has to offer as well. Ashley Emma says she's back. Her baby actually sleeps now. So again, congratulations on your newborn. So happy you're getting some sleep. I remember those days too. Now I can't wake my kids up. They just sleep forever. So it does change after a certain point. Let's see. Mandy says, what are your thoughts on having 3 or so meta readers to get feedback on content flow after you first self-edit before you hire the editor?
Yeah, I like it as an idea, but I often don't like it in implementation because what I found with my experience is that it's hard to control someone's timeline that you're not paying. It's like you almost feel like they're doing you a favor. And unless you set very, very clear up expectations up front, it's not going to work. Now you have to say, okay, can you get this back to me like in a week or like a week and a half with feedback, and just be very clear. Okay, by committing to doing this, you will get it to me by next Friday or by whatever. And if you can't, no worries. Like just please don't commit because this is very important to me or something like that. Like you really have to set expectations. But for that reason, I don't really like to do it because you're leaving it in other people's hands. And you'll be better off. It's like at a gut level, you know what you need to do by reading it, and especially if you have a good editor. And a lot of times it's like getting feedback on a title or on a cover. You just end up more confused the more feedback that you get.
All right, I'm actually going to jump down here. Don't normally do this. I don't usually go out of the thread first, but I'm going to do this for these 2 people. One, because is from Christina or Harmony Whalen, who's like on the top of both of our lists this week. And I think this is the first time you're doing a Hangout. So I'm definitely going to jump. But next time, try and get it in the thread. I decided on my how-to book, Designing Your Wedding Cake, based on 3 factors Chandler explained in the video: quickest to finish, most enjoyable, etc. But I've realized I'm almost finishing the draft that I will need many more photos of the cakes than I first thought. Getting permission, having professional shots, this will take ages. I'm planning on doing an entire design series. My question is, should I put this aside, go on to the next how-to that won't take ages, and go back to the first one when I have some experience? They will all follow the same steps, and the process is pretty similar. So it's partly written already. Any thoughts on this?
That's a tough one. I would say don't go back to the drawing board. Think about a different way to solve this problem. If you've already made a ton of progress, like think about a different way to solve this problem that's not you getting professional shots on every single cake. Is that removing some of the images? Is that purchasing stock images? Is that, like what else could you do? This is kind of one of the great books I read is called Decisive. And it talks about either or decisions and the problem with either or decisions. And in this case, it's an either or decision when sometimes you just kind of have to ask, like, what else could I do? And I think that's what you need to ask here.
And there's some great advice about linking to Pinterest pictures. That's one good way. And then coming back, you can always adjust the book later. It's a great thing about being self-published. I know Christina had some great stuff in here about doing photo shoots all at once and setting things up, and some very specific things for photo shoots. So again, some great feedback from both of those. So definitely check those out going there. Then the next Christina also had, and Christina's been with us for a little while, and she said that she's kind of been silent, but she's been blown away about the amount of information, generous community, and the amazing people sharing great content. She's usually silent during the Q&A, and her questions are usually being asked by other people. But this one she wants to ask herself. When she started researching, thinking about why the book, wanted to create a how-to guide in color, how people use color in their decorating. As an artist, interior designer, I have a ton of information about it. However, in the writing process, the book took a different turn. From a how-to book, it became a passion project, and she started sharing historical facts, stories, and other things. From what I saw, there are 2 types of books: decorating books and books on psychology of color, but not the 2 combined. Is it wrong to mix the 2? I have a hard time separating them. My current title is Live in Color: The Truth, Myths, and the Magic, and How to Build a Space That Looks and Feels Incredible with Color. So would a ghostwriter be the solution, a good editor, or any thoughts?
Okay, it kind of threw me at the end of that question. I'm not sure where the ghostwriter part came in.
I think she was thinking maybe they would help her kind of combine this, but I would say let's hold that out and just say, is it a good idea to combine these 2, or should she keep them separate?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm happy, if you feel like this is going to create the best experience for the end reader, then I'm happy combining the 2. But I want to make sure what you do is that you're very clear with the positioning of the book. So don't let the fact that it's kind of like an interwoven thing confused the positioning of the book, which it seems like based on the title and the subtitle, like that's pretty clear. Like, I think you've done a great job with that.
And kind of second question, this is from Christine as well. I've sent my book to beta readers. They all suggested I should expand on my personal story. On the other hand, most books start with the pain and the solution. I can't decide which one should go first. It looks like I'm writing 2 intros. How can I solve this problem? I don't want to keep people waiting to read the book, and an author's note plus an intro to seem like a bit much to ask.
Yeah, I would add in your personal story.
It always benefits you to add that. People connect with you so much better. And even if you say, if you're not into the personal story and you want to get it, move to this chapter. Like, that's some people do it that way too. But man, everybody identifies more with the personal story.
For sure. Especially if there's hardship, and especially if you point to like, this is how I learned what I've learned, and this is going to directly relate to the things that I'm teaching you. People get it. Where I would caution you is like going way too long and just talking about yourself and talking about yourself. Like, that definitely gets annoying. But most people err on the side of not enough versus too much, unless you just have a huge ego or whatever. Like, most people err on the other side. And this comes from someone who I'm kind of like a pretty hardcore, and I'm just like, just get to the content. Like, we don't need your 30-minute intro about yourself. And I've kind of like had to move towards that, because I realized that like what was happening is I wasn't connecting to people, because it's like they want to know your story. They want to know that you're from the South, and that, whatever you like, what are those things that make you unique and make you special? And I was just like, welcome to the webinar, or welcome to my book. Here's the content. And it just feels a little bit more transactional.
All right, so next question here. We're jumping back into the thread. So those of you that were a little lost, I jumped down just for a minute, but Mandy's question, well, I think we got to that already. So it's K.S. Mueller's question is, need reassurance, I guess. Mind mapping an outline of each chapter going great, but it takes me way less than 10 to 12 minutes for that part. The writing is great, 30 to 90 minutes. Is it okay to be finished with mind mapping and outline sooner than the 10 minutes?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Yes, I mean, good for you. I would say that's awesome, especially if you're getting enough information. That's the gates must be open and coming out. So great stuff.
And I say use timers. This was really helpful for me. Just use timers so you know exactly how long it's, and then reset the timer. Like, if it only takes you 5 to 7 minutes, reset the next timer, and then, because the timers just help me stay on track when I'm going through that process.
All right, Jane says she just got KDP Rocket, and it is so useful. So I'm happy, because that's something I use now too. So I think it's a killer deal for those of you that have not gotten it. It's really, really helpful. Ashley says, I just asked KDP for multiple categories today. We'll see how it goes. So good luck. It's been working well for a lot of people. Then I need to use KDP to find more categories and keywords. So I think you're talking about using KDP Rocket to find categories and keywords. At least I hope you are. And if you're not, I would recommend doing that, talking about what we just talked about above. So good to see Ashley's back in it and moving forward. So Melina has a question. I've never tried speaking a book before. Planning to do this because I want to publish my book as fast as possible. I watched the videos in phase 2 about book speaking. Is there anything else I should watch for? So there is another expert hangout. And so if you want to answer real quickly, I'll go grab that expert hangout from, let's see, that one. Who did that? Derek Doker, I think.
Oh, are you talking about an audiobook?
Wait a minute, is that not what I saw there?
Oh, well, she's talking about like actually speaking the,
oh, okay, I got it confused. You go for it.
Cool. Yeah. So, if you want to do an audiobook, definitely check out that expert training from Derek Depker. In terms of speaking your book, what to watch out for? Yes, make sure that you do the mind map and outline for each chapter. This is something that people skip, and then they just fire up the recording and just talk for like 30 minutes, and then they can't use what they've spoken. So definitely watch out for that. But other than that, just go through it. And I really like the speaking and then transcribing it yourself. That's been really useful for people. And I know that's also been useful for Omer, who's on staff here. He's doing that right now with his book.
All right. She was clarifying, not an audiobook. Yeah, so I read that wrong. Let's see. We got Lena, who's got a cat on a computer and says, thank you, Pranams. Or pranams, I don't even know. I had to look up that word. It's reverential bowing. I bow down to you. Thanks for keeping me from cat video land. I'll be sharing more about that right you are in a blog post this week.
Great. That's awesome.
Marcia says, you've told us not to edit the same time we write. When could we edit? After we finish writing a draft or chapter, go back and refine, or all at once at the end? She has a messy introduction and realized I was getting bogged down trying to edit and research while writing.
All at the end, after you finish the rough draft, and exactly what you said here, the messy introduction, that's fine. We talked about that last week. A messy introduction is a good thing because you'll go back and do that at the end. Don't worry about that.
All right. And Ashley said that she just looked Emma's fabulous book and noticed the publisher is Some Fun Inc. She loves that name. Is that an imprint you own? How does that work? Do you have the copyright to make it an LLC? Let's see if she's saying that right. So yeah, it is Some Fun Inc. And that's just, we just made that up because my last name is Sumner. My folks, so my mom remarried, her last name is Funston. And so we've always just kind of had this joke in the family, it's Some Fun. So we just put that as the ink. You can pretty much put whatever publishing ink you want and just kind of, there's no reason to have an LLC or copyright it or anything like that. It's just what's going to show up when people look at it. It helps to have that on there a little bit because like when I went to Barnes & Noble, they didn't want it to be published by Amazon or CreateSpace, something like that. They wanted a publisher's name. It makes it look a little bit more authentic that it's not self-published, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but can help you in bookstores. Yeah, so that's why we did that. It was just, and it's fun to kind of have that on there. So we enjoy that.
It's fun. I see what you did there.
Yeah. All right. I could go along with this. It's just some fun.
Yeah, we could keep going. Yeah, we'll stop.
Right. So Barry says, Chandler, did you see my book recommendation that you left earlier in the Hangout this year? It was The Good Psychopath's Guide to Bossing Your Life. When I saw it, I immediately thought of you. It's actually a brilliant book to add to your reading list. Oh my goodness.
I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I also think there are lots of things that would be great to talk about in the community. I don't know why you thought of me, Barry. I don't know if you've heard, maybe you saw me recommend The Sociopath Next Door like a while back. I don't know.
That's probably what it is. It has nothing to do with anything
I'm going to assume that's what it is. Oh man, right. I'm sure it's a great book.
Jim says several of us of our launching members have not filled in their information on their Amazon Author Central. So we mentioned how we can help them with display reviews, cover info, flap info, and author info. It's free and can only help. So if you guys haven't done this, you have Amazon Author Central is where you can put information about yourself as the author. And then when people will have that, they can click on it, get more information about you. So if they're interested in your book, they may want to click on that and the description to find out more about you. Like you said, it's free, it's easy, it can only help you. And then if you have other links to your blog or anything like that, you can put that in there too to keep them coming back to other things. And if they sign up to follow you, if you publish another book, they'll be notified, right? So there's a lot of good things about Amazon Author Central accounts. And Cindy says, I love your title, Don't Use a Pen Name. So I know, I can't remember who that's referencing back up there, but it said, don't use a pen name. Tool says, do you get the book proofread again when it comes back from formatting?
Yes.
Yes, and I do too, because otherwise there are mistakes that come that your other editor might have missed, you might have missed. It's just another set of eyes on it, so I would recommend it. Testimonials you can use in the back of the book. Would you also include them inside?
If you're talking about print book, you certainly could. You could do it in the beginning pages.
Yeah, I like this, and I don't know, Tony Robbins' book just came out, and he has some great small testimony, and it's just another thing to build his authority. Not that he really needs it, but I think it's really helpful, and I really appreciate seeing those in the front. Just another thing to make me buy into the book, so I would recommend it. Let's see. What is the book Chandler recommended about limiting choices? And you said it was decisive.
Or shoot, no, I think that's wrong. It's
So Chandler is wrong on what he just said. So,
yeah. Wow. Gosh.
We're gonna mark that down on the calendar. This is the first time in about 3 years.
There you go. That I was wrong, or that I admitted that.
Oh, wow, I'm not going there. We'll have the psychopath come out in a minute, so I got.
Oh yeah, we'll get some more book recommendations out of that one. So let me see. It's a green cover. Yeah, it's called Decisive. So I was actually right.
Oh, we gotta take it off the calendar.
Yeah, right. Wow, man. It's How to Make Better Choices in Life and Work. It's by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. It's the guys who wrote. Gosh, I want to say it's. I'm forgetting what other book that they wrote. Oh, Made to Stick. That's the other. Oh, yeah, that's the other book that they wrote. So yeah, that's the book.
Oh, and Anne missed us today, and because yes, she said after clocks changed. Yes, we had daylight savings time here in the States. I know that threw a few people off, so I'm sorry about that. I know we're talking to Ari Vance, one of our coaches today, and we had a little we did have a time change. We had our spring forward this week, so hopefully you can catch the replay. And we always love having you here. And we had Eduardo taking some notes today too, so he helped you out as well. So, but it's good to see you here at the end. All right, guys, we are at the 7 o'clock mark here. So I'm going to take one last run through with a lot of great questions, a lot of great interaction today. And just know that we're here every week. So get your questions in early so we can make sure get them in the thread. So make sure we can get to them as well. And know that you don't have to ask everything right now. We'll be here and back, and we're in the community too. So if you have a question, you can tag me. You can let me know that the question's there. And Melina Wynn said, so much fun. So this might be your first one. So glad to have you here. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, Melina just messaged me the other day, said that she just joined. So Melina, welcome. Great to have you on this one. Thanks for your question. And yes, we do have fun. And it's more
Brenda,
fun when you
I actually got to just talk
us.
with Brenda right before this. So Brenda, I'm glad you're on here as well.
Yeah. Jim, Elsa, thanks again. Thank you. Awesome. Hey, thank you guys for the great questions. Thank you for submitting them ahead of time. And thank you for coming on here live. Because like I was just saying, you guys are what makes this fun. And without you guys, there would be no Hangout. So be sure to come back next week. Invite your accountability buddy. Make sure they're here. Make sure they get on here, especially if they've never been before. This is just it's a great tool. It's something that we do for you guys. This is in our calendars. We take time out of our week every single week because we feel like this is something that's really helpful for you guys. And it's even more helpful if you show up, and especially if you have questions. So be sure to come back next week, invite your accountability buddy, and we will see you guys next week. Have a great week, guys. See ya.